Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into, well, a really extraordinary story. It's about one of the world's most recognizable brands, Starbucks, and specifically the man who really shaped it, Howard Schultz.
It is an amazing narrative,
Mhm.
and the contrast is just striking, isn't it? You've got this global coffee empire worth, what, $100 billion? And the guy behind so much of it, Howard Schultz, he started out in, well, extreme poverty.
Extreme is the word. He actually described moments where he even had to sell his blood a couple of times just to get by.
It really makes you stop and think. So our goal today, our mission in this deep dive, isn't just to, list events.
Yeah.
We want to unpack how this young kid facing really deep personal struggles, serious financial hardship.
Hmm.
How did he go on to transform Starbucks into the giant it is now?
Right. We'll dig into those key moments, those frankly audacious decisions, and the philosophies underneath it all, based on what we found in our sources, hopefully offering some real insights for, your own journey, too.
Absolutely. So let's start with those early roots. Because it wasn't just poverty, was it? It really forged him.
It absolutely did. It was a crucible, like you said. He grew up poor, really poor, small one-bedroom apartment, public housing projects. His dad was an Army vet, always working these low-paid jobs, truck driver.
And then that defining moment happened, the one Schultz talks about.
Exactly. He was only 7. His dad's delivering diapers, slips on ice, breaks his leg. And back then, no safety net. He got fired, no medical insurance, no savings. The family was just devastated, really struggling.
And Howard saw that image, his father on the couch, feeling hopeless, defeated. It just burned itself into his memory. It wasn't just a tough time. It was deeply formative, shaped everything. He
Yeah.
talks about sitting on the staircase in his building, dreaming of something better.
You can almost picture it.
And you could see how that directly connects later on to his commitment to employee welfare at Starbucks. It wasn't just a policy. It came from that deep personal experience.
That's such a critical piece, seeing that vulnerability firsthand. He actually used football initially as a way out, got an athletic scholarship for college.
But then he pivoted, right? Didn't play sports.
No, majored in communications instead. And paying for it was another struggle. Student loans, lots of odd jobs. And that's where the story about selling his blood comes in, just to make ends meet during college.
It paints a picture of real desperation, but also incredible drive.
Definitely. After college, worked at a ski lodge, then sales. But he got this laser focus on Starbucks.
Which is fascinating because back then, Starbucks was, well, it wasn't Starbucks as we know it.
Not at all. Tiny company, just 3 owners. They only sold coffee beans. No brewed coffee, no lattes, none of that.
And yet he saw something. It took him a full year, apparently, constantly persuading them to hire him. He finally got in at age 29.
A whole year. That shows incredible persistence. And maybe, like you said, seeing potential others missed, even the founders.
Yeah, it suggests he already had a kind of vision brewing, even before he really knew what it was.
And that vision really clicked into place during that famous trip to Italy, didn't it?
Ah, yes, the Milan trip.
Can you imagine walking into an Italian coffee bar for the first time? It wasn't just the coffee.
It was the whole atmosphere, the theater about it.
Exactly. He was totally captivated. The owners knew everyone, called them by name. This real sense of community built around coffee. He apparently raced back to the U.S., completely energized, thinking, this is it. This is the secret.
Convinced he'd found the missing piece for Starbucks. He tried to get the owners on board with this new idea, the experience, the brewed coffee.
But they weren't having it.
No, they were focused on beans. They just didn't share his vision for turning Starbucks into, well, coffee bars.
Yeah.
Which leads to a really interesting point for anyone listening, right? What do you do when your big idea gets shot down by the people you need?
Yeah, especially when you believe in it so strongly.
So Schultz, faced with that resistance, he made a huge move. He quit.
Quit Starbucks.
Yep. Decided to start his own coffee company, mirroring that Italian experience. He called it Il Giornale.
It's amazing how those earlier experiences, his dad's vulnerability, his own struggles seem to fuel his determination when faced with rejection rather than crush it.
Absolutely. But starting Il Giornale,
Yeah.
that wasn't easy either. He had no money.
Right. And the fundraising story is legendary. He said he spent a year pitching to investors, spoke to 242 people.
And the rejection rate.
Staggering. 217 said no.
Wow. Do the math on that.
It's like over 89% rejection. Just think about hearing no over 200 times.
Most people would have just packed it in and said,
Huh.
okay, maybe this isn't meant to be.
Seriously. So what kept him going? What made him stick with it despite all that skepticism?
Well, I think it highlights the difference between just a good idea and a truly disruptive vision. Disruptive ideas often face that kind of pushback precisely because they challenge how things are done. For Schultz, it clearly wasn't just stubbornness. It was this deep, unshakable conviction. He genuinely believed he saw something others didn't.
He called it a humbling time, but also a time where he learned to trust his gut, his intuition, above the noise.
Exactly. And eventually, slowly, painstakingly, enough people did catch the vision. They invested. He worked like crazy, opened his first shop, finally bringing that Italian coffee bar dream to life.
And then comes the twist. Just a few years later,
Fate steps in. Starbucks, the original company he'd left.
runs into financial trouble. Goes bankrupt, actually.
Unbelievable timing, really.
Yeah.
And Howard saw his chance. He seized the opportunity.
Bought the company, became the CEO of Starbucks. He then rebranded his own Il Journal stores under the Starbucks name and just started expanding, first across the U.S.
And the rest, as they say, is history. More than 30,000 stores worldwide today, that $100 billion market value we mentioned. It's quite a trajectory from that housing project staircase to, well, a global phenomenon.
It really is, and it ties directly into the advice he gives now, doesn't it, based on everything he went through?
It absolutely does. He often talks about personal responsibility. He says things like, you can blame a lot of people and you can wallow in self-pity, or you can pick yourself up and say, listen, I have to be responsible for myself.
Taking ownership.
Exactly. And he pushes back against the idea of luck. He emphasizes that much of what people ascribe to luck is not luck at all. It's seizing the day and accepting responsibility for your future.
Which sounds exactly like what he did with Il Journal and
Yeah.
then again with buying Starbucks. Seizing the day.
Precisely. It's about, in his words, seeing what other people don't see and pursuing that vision.
Yeah.
That's the core of it. That's what he clearly lived through, especially during those 217 rejections.
So that belief in dreaming big, it wasn't just some abstract idea for him. It was forged in overcoming real significant adversity.
Absolutely grounded in reality. He explicitly says, my own experience suggests that starting from scratch and achieving much more than what I dream about is quite possible. And how do you do that? Again, by seeing what other people don't see and pursuing that vision. Just like he saw community, not just coffee beans.
It's a powerful message.
It really is. And he leaves us with a pretty direct challenge, I think. Something practical. He warns, you wait for the perfect conditions, you'll never get anything done.
That hits home. How often do we wait for everything to be just right?
Right. And then he adds this kicker. A year from now, you may wish you had started today. So taking all that on board, his journey, his advice, it leads to a question for everyone listening. What's one decision, maybe something you've been putting off, that you could take control of right now, even if the conditions aren't perfect? What could you start today?